Welcome to Debt and Savings Lesson 2 of Introduction to Financial Stability. This week we will learn 2 different ways to reduce debt. We will also talk about building a savings plan for financial security. When we are struggling financially, it can start to take a toll on our marriage. I created these different family life education courses to increase family connection, create financial stability in a marriage, and family can increase connection. Pittman and Lloyd stated, greater financial stress is lower satisfaction with marriage. Conger, Reuter, and Conger found that greater financial pressure was associated with lower marital satisfaction and greater marital instability. This includes lack of control, frustration, anger, general demoralization, depression, offer less emotional support, and spend more time arguing and blaming each other. We have limitations and freedoms. Debt is a limitation. It limits our freedom. It builds contention in our family. It decreases the future financial planning, and it limits our ability to save. When we have savings, it increases our freedom, decreases our stress, allows for ownership, prepares for the future, and prepares for the unexpected. First, we are going to discuss debt and the 2 different tools that I found that you can use to pay off debt. We will discuss the difference between debt avalanche versus debt snowball. We will discuss the pros and cons of both. So with a debt snowball method, you list the debts from smallest to largest in amount. The goal of this is to build momentum and motivation to pay off this debt. You're checking off boxes sooner by paying off the smallest amount first before you move on to the largest amount. This allows you to feel a little bit more of the motivation to keep going each time you're checking one off. So you pay the minimum payments on everything else but the smallest debt. When you're working on the smallest debt, you are paying the highest amount possible. You are selling items, you're taking extra jobs, you're doing whatever it takes, living as minimal as possible to be able to pay off this debt as soon as possible. You don't invest during this time. You just focus on paying off the debt. The whole focus is paying the debt off. Then you keep going down the list. So as soon as you paid off that smallest one, you keep going down that list, contributing to the next one. As you've made those minimum payments, you take that minimum amount plus what you can contribute from savings and or selling items or your extra jobs and everything, the highest amount possible that you can contribute plus the minimum of the next one. And that's why it's called a snowball, because you keep adding the minimums in as well as the highest amount possible that you can pay. So you can pay it off more quickly as you move down the list of debt. The average time to get out of debt within using the snowball method is 18 to 24 months. This excludes home mortgage, of course, because that's a much higher amount that you're taking out. And this is all from the Ramsey Show highlights. The con to this is that you're paying more in interest. So with the debt avalanche method, you list your debts based on your interest rate, putting the first one at the top and going down. The goal of this is to save on interest rate and reduce interest faster. You're paying off the debt with the highest interest rate first. You make minimum payments on all other debts. When you paid off, you move down the list, going to the next highest interest rate. This is great for really high interest rate credit card debt. If you have a lot of that, it's a great way to pay that off first, focusing on getting rid of having to pay more interest over time. The cons is that this can take a lot longer because your debt amount can be higher as you're with these higher interest rate cards than if you went from the smallest debt and worked down. You might also run out of motivation to pay off the debt because of how long it can take. It's a longer process, so a lot more time spending living minimally, not being able to do activities or go out to eat or taking time to kind of spend on yourself. You're more focused 100% on the debt all the time and paying it off as quickly as possible, which can be very taxing over a long period of time. Both of these, one of the pros that you can really do in both of these is to set up an automatic minimum payment. So then that money is automatically taken out to pay off minimum payments for your other debts. So you're not constantly having to go in and make sure that you have paid off all your other minimum balances. That can be paid off automatically. And that can really help you as you're going through this process to be able to really just focus on that one debt, as all the other ones will be covered by the minimum payments. Next, we'll move on to building our savings account and why they are so important, and the different types of accounts. So why is savings important again? Because it builds our financial freedom. It prepares for future purchases, it prepares for the unexpected expenses, and it helps limit our debt. There's different types of savings accounts that we can create. There's an emergency savings account, which is recommended to have 3 to 6 months of your income. If you have a very transient income, you don't really know how much you're going to be getting in each month, it's best to actually have a year, up to a year of emergency income in, because your income could shift drastically. If you have a more stable job, 3 to 6 months is a really good way to start. You can have a home savings account. This can be working on down payments for a new home or home repairs, taxes, if you have to pay estimates, or if you have to pay in yearly, it's good to start saving that money throughout the year and having a separate account for it, so you are not taking out of your account, your emergency savings account or your other savings account or your regular account, all a big lump sum to pay off that amount every year. You can submit so much money throughout the year and be able to pay that off easier. There's also retirement savings accounts and just retirement investment accounts that you can create to be able to prepare for retirement. Some of these are linked with your work. Some of them you can do on your own. If you like to do trips or experiences and want to create another savings account for that, any future desires you have or other things that you have that you want to have build a savings account for, you can have multiple savings accounts. And a lot of banks nowadays will allow you to have multiple savings accounts without charging you for each of those accounts. And that's the great thing about modern banking, especially online banking. You can create multiple savings accounts for all these different things and title them without having to pay extra. So there's many different ways that we can save, right? We can save in a local bank. This is not the best way to save because the average is a 0.45% annual percentage yield. This is a very low percentage that you'd be receiving from the money that you put in there. And sometimes it can come with monthly fees of $5 to $10, depending on the bank, depending on the type of savings account. Those fees can really add up, and that's taking money away, and that money is not being always replaced by your annual percent yield, depending on how much you have in your account. Not the best way to build up a savings, to have your money be able to last with the different inflations that are happening in the world today. Online savings accounts are different. Some of them offer a higher annual percent yield, and I would definitely recommend looking for these accounts. 4 to 5% of the annual percent yield, significantly better than a 0.45%. Some offer no monthly fees and no minimum balances. So it doesn't matter how much you have in there, you will not be charged extra, and you will be increasing your annual percent yield significantly more than in a regular local bank. Another way to save is to actively be putting money in to a savings account, right? So a 52-week money challenge is when you take and you save a dollar the first week, $2 the second week, and so forth and so on. So you would take, and by the end of the 52 weeks, you would be putting $52 in on the last week. And you would end with a savings of $1,378 in the 52 weeks. This is a great way to start savings. This would be a great way for our kids to really increase their savings in a 52-week challenge. This week you save a dollar, next week you save $2, and then they can grow that savings and they can grow that habit of putting money away each week. And it can also help you if you're planning for something later in the year or trip, or just want to kind of have that little extra savings, take on this challenge. Also, if you're looking at increasing your income but are still struggling on how to do it, or it's a slower increase, this is a great way to add a little extra money to your savings without having to have a second job. That income can slowly be building over time. You can also take a 1-year savings. So you want to see what amount you want within 12 months. And then you divide that amount by 12 and see how much you need to save each month to reach your goal in 12 months. You can increase your income, of course. You can sell items from your home that you no longer need. You can do freelance work. You can do side jobs, all those different things to increase your income. You can also automate your saving transfers, so allowing your savings to not be a hassle on you. Remembering that that your money is going to be put away all on the amount that you set up to be put into the different accounts as you have set it, and you don't have to go in and remember to do it every month because it's already going to be done for you. Continuing on with our building our savings, we can reduce our expenses. As we have learned in the last lesson, is learning how to track our expenses and seeing where we are spending money and choosing areas that we can decrease. If we are spending too much money on clothes or on food or on eating out, all of those things we can work on decreasing that amount so we can have more money to put into a savings account or into investments after you've built up your savings accounts. You can also use your local resources. The military has a lot of different allowances that can help you cover expenses for different things. There's the basic allowance for housing. So if you are living in a house, they will either cover your rent depending on how much your allowance is for, or help cover part of your rent. There's a clothing allowance, so you're not having to take money out of your own account to pay for new uniforms. There's also a cost of living allowance, and me being overseas, there's an overseas cost of living allowance based on how much the cost of living is and how strong or weak the dollar is. And then there's other ones, there's the family separation, or when your spouse is deployed, there's a deployment. There's many different things that the military does to help families. And if we take that time to really look into what we're receiving and using it in a more mindful way, then we can prevent us from using our income for things that the military is paying us to use, or giving us extra money to use. There's also many different government assistances that can help out in time of needs. These all vary in different areas that you live, so take advantage of trying to find what is available in your area to help you with assistance when you need it, or to reduce your expenses so you can build more into savings, more into preparing, and less into having to just live paycheck to paycheck. So you can set aside, we already talked about setting aside savings accounts for specific things, right? And these, like an emergency account, what things should be really used for that? It should be, unexpected medical bills, unexpected car repairs or replacements. If you're using your car to get to work and you cannot use local transportation, if you need your car, you need to be able to have the money to be able to replace it or repair it if need be. If you have a loss of income, if you're furloughed, if you're without income for a time, or a decrease in income because of changes in duty station or in separation pay, between not being separated, deployment pay, between not being deployment pay, all those different things, that is a portion of a lost income. So making sure that we have that emergency account of the 3 to 6 months income can help supplement for that. If there's a loss in your family or a fire or any other problem that can destroy your stuff, flood, hurricanes, tsunamis, all those different things that can happen, natural disasters that can happen, it's good to have money saved up so then you can still survive during that time and not feel that overwhelming burden of finances. So when we are looking at taking money out of our emergency fund, these are the questions we should really be asking ourselves. Is it unexpected? Is it necessary? Is it urgent? If it's not one of these things, we should not be taking that money out of our emergency account. It should be coming out of a different savings account, or we should be able to focus on living within our means and seeing if there's another thing that we can reduce our expenses so we can afford this other thing that we want. Changing around our budget, that is okay. That is really good to do when we are still working on building and establishing and changing over time. Those are all important things to remember when we are budgeting, is that it constantly changes, and it's important for us to check in frequently on where we are, where we want to be, and where do we want our money to go, and where is it going. So to end this lesson, this is the take-home activity for this week. If you wanted to take longer in between these lessons, feel free to take longer between these lessons. That's why they're available online. That's why they're available to you at any time. You can take a month and work on just the first part of building your budget and then move on to these things. If you're going within the week or month or whatever, look at your debt that you have and decide if one of these two different types of styles of debt payment would be beneficial for you to pay off your debt. And work on paying it off. Make a plan of how you want to pay off debt. If these two don't work for you, make a different plan. Creating a habit of healthy financial stability is figuring out what works best for you. Also, start building an emergency savings account. Plan on how you will save up for that 3 to 6 months of expenses. This is really important in today's world, to have an emergency savings account. This will be your lifeline when emergencies arrive. And build up other savings accounts for goals for your family, for fun things or not fun things, or taxes or whatever else you have that you need to build up money for throughout the year to afford. It can even be for Christmas presents or gifts or anything like that, whatever is most important or needed in your family to be saving up for throughout the year or years to come, college, tuition, all the different things that come with having families. It's important to recognize where we are, make a plan, and start working together on how we're going to save up for that. Even if it's just $10 or $20 a month to add to it right now, and then maybe more later. As we are developing our budget, it is okay that it is a small amount right now. And as we learn how to budget and be more mindful of our money, and paid off our debt, we will have more usable income to put into savings and investments. So thank you for taking this opportunity to listen to this lesson. The next lesson will be lesson 3, the final lesson of this introduction to financial stability. And I hope that you come back and you learn a little bit more about what it's like to invest and use your resources.